Hello guys, it's Craig from fixitfallows and I am in the garage, which is just as well because it is very cold outside. Here in the UK it is April, but we've had a bit of a cold snap, so yeah, better to be indoors. So today in the garage, and I am with my Serpent 1/8 Cobra buggy. You've seen this in a previous video, really still pleased with it. However, my inquisitive nature, fixitfallows, more like wreckitfallows, I took the brushless motor to pieces just to see what was going on inside. Of course, a short inside the motor and it's kaput. Now what I don't know is whether it's done any damage to the electronic speed controller. However, we shall have a look and find out. Okay, let's get this body off and have a look inside. Here we go, get those body clips off. So there we go, there's the buggy with the body off. There's the old motor. It's labelled up as a Dragon RC. This is what come in the RTR kit. It uses these 4mm, I think they're 4mm banana connectors there into the electronic speed controller. And this was a 1600 kV. So here we are with the motor. This time I am not going to go in from this end cap. I'm going to go in from this end. It turns out that going in from this end is not very necessary and is really a bad idea. Besides, all the years I used to race brushed motors, I never went in from this end. I always went in from that end. So why did I do it this time? Who knows? Anyway, so let's take this end cap off, and on this motor it's 3 small hex heads here. I think it's the same on most. I've already started giving a bit of a loosen off anyway. I'll just get the remaining turns done there. I can pretty much do them by hand probably. So out they come. There you go. As I say, there's no timing adjustment on this motor, so these are like a fixed position, these screws and the end cap. So they're out, and then we just lift away the end cap. There we go. You just put your nail in between the end cap and the can, and you can just lift it off. And there we are. The end cap's off. There's the bearing in there, and you can see some telltale signs of some debris in there. So anyway, there we are. In there, your 3 wires, they open up there and they form coils that form the electromagnet around the stator. And on the end of the stator, you'll most likely find a tiny little shim, and that is what killed this motor. So having undone this end can, this cap on the end here, and pulled the stator out, what happened was, as the stator passed through the coils there, this washer came off, unknown to me, and kind of got loose in there somewhere. I then put all the motor back together, not realising that this shim washer was now loose in this end cap. Put the motor together and run it. Well, of course, this little washer had a whale of a time in there, flying around all over the place. And what it's actually done, if I can zoom in, is that it's cut into some of this wiring here, and all this wiring actually has a insulation lacquer over it. So ordinarily, it's insulated, but of course with that little shim flying around all over the place, that soon ate through some of the insulation, and lo and behold, it caused this motor to short out and burn out. And that's how simple it was to kill this motor. Now this wasn't a particularly expensive motor, but it might have been, and I'd be much more unhappy than I am. But anyway, there we are. That's what happened, all because of that tiny little shim. Yeah, I killed it. So that one's going, and what I've done is I've purchased myself this. This is a Rocket brushless motor. It is a 1900 kV, as I do plan to go racing at some point, and 1900 kV seems to be about the general sort of area ballpark sort of motor that people go for. Comes with some nice quality cabling there. It's quite heavy gauge, that's 10 AWG. Comes with these big nice gold plated connectors, so they're going to carry some serious ampage. So yeah, that's going in there. The existing speed controller with this kit is this unit here. It's labelled up again as a Dragon RC. It's just a rebadged RTR grade Hobbywing. It's 120 amp, 6 volt BEC. All the cabling is slightly lighter. It's 12 AWG, and as I showed you just a minute ago, it comes with banana connectors. Now, I don't know whether that still works or not. It may well do, but I figured, well, what the hell, let's upgrade it. So that's coming out, and in its place is going this. Now this is effectively a debadged Hobbywing Max8. It is rated at 6 amps potentially for the BEC. So you can run at 7.4 volts. It's 150 amps. And it's got nice heavy gauge 10 AWG cabling. And it has them nice heavy duty board mounted bullet connectors there. So that's going in. And that just leaves the remaining Dragon RC servo, which is okay. But again, we're going to take that out and replace it with this. This is something that, these are servos that Kevin Talbot recommends. It is a high voltage, all metal servo. Again, got this off Aliexpress. Yeah, at 7.4 volts, it's rated at 0.7 or 0.07 of a second for the sweep, and at 21 kilos. So we're going to put that in as well. Okay, so from what I can see, the speed controller is stuck in, the switch is stuck onto the back of the servo, so let's get that switch off for starters. Just need, let's get a blade and run that down there. There we go, there's the switch off. Okay, yeah, I need to take the cable out of the receiver, don't I? So let's open up the receiver box. Okay, so using these nice new tools that I showed you in a previous video, let's get this receiver box open. Oh man, that's so much easier than using a conventional Allen key. I just need to snip this cable tie. Okay, channel 2 is the speed controller. Okay, so that's out of there. Okay, now we just got to prise that up. Okay, so there's the old speed controller. There's the new one. It is a little bit bigger. Hopefully it will fit. Okay, so on this Serpent Cobra buggy, we have this radio. I think they call it like a radio deck. So you've got your receiver in there, your speed controller goes on there, and your servo is in this housing here. Well, really, to get everything out easy, you want to remove this whole deck. So it's just 3 screws underneath there, and this all lifts out like so. Okay, that leaves you then better access to whatever you need to do in there. It's the servo saver rate there, you can do up that turn, compress that spring or change the spring for a harder spring. the kit servo horn there, which is a fairly decent unit. Okay, it actually uses an insert there, which is still currently on the end of the servo, so that can come off and go onto the new servo should I wish to carry on using this servo horn. So here we are with that radio deck. You can see it's kind of like a moulded affair. There's space under there for your transceiver, your MRT or your ABM or whichever it is you're using. That can go under there, nicely secured away. It gives you access there to the screws that hold the servo in. But the problem I've got is, let's offer these up. There's the old electronic speed controller, and there's a new one, and there is quite a bit of difference in size. The new one, it does not fit. Okay, these wires come out of the side there just a bit. You see they stick out, so they need a little bit of room. And this servo wire comes up this from underneath there and runs up there. So what I'm going to have to do is, let's use a pointer, is I'm going to have to cut out a rebate in there, a recess there, to allow for these wires on the speed controller, and I'm going to have to rebate out of there to create a channel for that. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to have to do. And just as proof of concept, if we put the speed controller in this way around, so that there's no wires affecting the width, it goes in there like so, but it just sits about 2 or 3 mil short of that end, and as a result it overhangs on this end. Now the reason why it's sitting like that is because of this little nib, this little protrusion here on the radio tray. So can I get that out? Can that be ground out? Let's have a little look. Okay. I could certainly take that bit away down to the base plate. Okay, so there's that bit cut and filed out. There's the radio tray back in, and that is a very tight fit. So the speed controller now sits flush with the side there. Let's see what happens when we put the body shell back on. Okay, seems to be okay. The only concern is anything hitting there will hit the electronic speed controller directly. But what else can you do? Okay, so now let's cut out a recess in there and in there. Okay, so I've taken the servo out so as to make it easier to cut the hole in there. This servo needed to come out anyway to put this one in, and then this is the adapter bit that comes off the top of there, and that can go onto this one like so. Okay, so let's work out exactly where we need to cut them holes. Okay, using this little cutter, I'm going to try and cut that out. Now I'll take a file and clean that up a bit. See on the back there's really not going to be much space. Will we even get a plug through there? Just about. Okay, so using the hot knife method, I've managed to get this little bit out. Will it be enough to get a plug through? Just about, yeah. Okay, now we've made all the adaptations to this radio tray, let's fit the servo and the speed controller in. Okay, so now the servo wire runs across underneath like that, then up the back there, and we pass it through this hole, like so. Try and get the kinks out of that so it all sits nice and flush. Yep, that goes like that. And what I'll do is I'll just put a bit of gaffer tape over there to keep that nice and out of the way. There you go. So it emerges on that side and go into the radio, into the receiver box there. So hopefully now we offer up the speed controller, and there you go, all good. So let's get the speed controller stuck in. The Hobbywing Max8 RTR speed controller come with some 3M branded double-sided tape, so we shall apply that to the back of the speed controller and stick it into the radio tray, and then there's a smaller pad there for the switch to go onto the back of the servo. Okay, so we peel off the bit of protection off the back of the tape. We'll get all our cables where we need them to be. And we stick the speed controller down. That seems to be a nice firm fit. that's all good. So the switch wire there, I've just given it a little bit of a loop just to clear it from the slots for the air cooling there. And then I've slid it down between the speed controller and the servo, hooked it underneath the servo wire, and it can loop around like that and stick on the back there. Okay, so there's the tape on the back of the switch, and then we just stick it on there like so. So now let's get this back in the car. We actually need to reconnect the steering horn to the servo, because if we put the motor in, we can't get access to that. So we've got to do this first, and that means we've got to centralize the servo. So that means we've got to connect up some power. So that's what we're about to do. Connecting up there. Got my transmitter, which is turned on. So let's connect up the power. Need to connect the servo wire. That's channel 1, like so, and we need to connect the speed controller, which is channel 2, like so. So that's all connected. Transmitter's on. Right, let's power on the speed controller. Okay, we're powered on. We have action. We've got servo action. Steering trim. Set that to 0. Okay. I think that's all good. I think that's all set to 0. Let's get that back in the car. So the radio tray's in. It's not screwed in, but it's in. And let's try and get that throttle linkage in, steering linkage in place. Okay, that looks pretty well lined up. Finer adjustments can be done once the model's moving. So now let's just get the screw back in there and connect that servo horn onto the servo. I can turn it all off now for the time being. There we go. So it's just a case of putting the 3 machine screws back in the bottom. There's one in there. One here. And a third one goes in there. Okay, now it's time to get the motor in. So we need our pinion, we need our motor mount, and we need our 2 bolts. Okay, so there we are. There's the motor mount onto the motor and the pinion on. Now we can offer that into the car and see how our cables sit. So here we are. I've got all of my plugs into the receiver. The receiver box is now, lid is now on and all done. That's all cool. The motor's in. That was a bolt that went in there. That's all done up. That's just like a single bolt that holds the motor in place. Now the motor wires can go across to the speed controller like so. Across there. And then all that's left to do is to program the speed controller to my preferences. Now it comes with a load of defaults as described in the manual, but I can either use the set button on the side of the switch to change parameters of it, or I can utilise my little program card here that you plug into the port there to program it. Okay, so here we are with the program card. I've got it connected into the port that the fan plug would go into. That's the programming port. So it tells you item 1 is on value 2, which corresponds with the manual. So item 1 is running mode, option 2 is forward, reverse and brake. Now I'm interested in the BEC, which is option 7, so we'll scroll through to option 7.
There you go, option 7, I've set it to item 7, I've set it to option 2, and option 2 is 7.4 volts, and now this servo should get 7.4 volts. The other thing I've changed is the start mode, which is option 10. Scroll through to option 10. I like to have full punch from pull away, so I've set it to value 5. And it's as simple as that. Just OK to that, and it's all set. All good. Now just turn the speed controller off. Unplug the program card and plug back in the fan, and that's all set up. There we are. There is our Hobbywing Max8 RTR speed controller fitted into our Serpent Cobra. We've also got our JX high voltage servo in there, and we have our Rocket 1900 kilovolt motor all in place, all good to go. So it's just a case of charging the batteries up and seeing how it all goes. So just to give you an indication of how quick these servos are, now they're running on 7.4 volts. Check this out. I've never had such fast servos. That is ridiculous. So far, so recommendable. And thank you to Kevin Talbot for the recommendation.